Whether you're a seasoned vet of the payments industry or a brand new rookie who just heard the term dual pricing for the first time, you're in the right place. This is the only podcast that shares the strategies and stories behind selling merchant services, all from the perspective of those on the front lines. Welcome to AgentFirst. All right, welcome back to another episode of a not yet named podcast. Although, again, it might be named by the time this comes out.
We're close.
We don't know yet.
Arguments since last time, but we're getting close.
Again, I'm John Skelly, Justin Volrath. Last time we talked about kind of your origin story, right, in the payments industry. And you alluded to some things that I thought it would be worth to talk about today. And part of that is... there's a lot of success stories in the payment industry. There's a lot of people that have made a lot of money and made careers and all of that. But there are also some things that go sideways. You were a salesperson. I was in roles that supported salespeople. I think we both saw a lot of things, not just at companies we were at, but also in the industry as a whole. And you kind of alluded to, as you were starting Pay Compass, that was one of the motivators, right? I think you used the term gaps when we talked. And so I was thinking maybe today we would talk a little bit about some of those gaps. Okay. And so when I say that, when I talk about, hey, what are some of the things that could be better, maybe even should be better, when it comes to how sales agents are treated in this industry? What's one of the first things that kind of pops into your head?
Right. Okay. Well, I would say. I mean, the first and foremost is how agent contracts are written. Okay. I mean, that is by far and away, I think, the most egregious, ridiculous thing in our industry. I mean, I understand, contracts and agreements have to be written with, legal language. I totally understand, and ours is as well. Yeah. But there are so many that take it a step further than that. Take it to a step of I'll just say it, of evil, in my opinion. I really, truly feel that way. There are ways out there that obviously the company needs to be protected from, the bad apples. And there's going to be those folks out there that are looking to take advantage of you. You need to protect yourself. I understand that. But I feel like way too often you have a situation where you have an agent who is coming on board somewhere. They're excited. They talk to somebody who's, the charismatic recruiter, the charismatic CEO, director of sales, whoever it may be, Sure. And that person gets them all excited about it, gets them, tells them all about the great things. And then they slide the contract in front of them and they sign it, and that's it. No one, they don't take any time to slow down, look at it like they should. I think there's a lot of, we joke in our society about, you slow down and read all your mortgage papers before you sign it. I mean, there's the whole South Park episode about, where you didn't read the terms and conditions, I kind of think about that sometimes. But our industry, I think, has is many ways purposely taken advantage of the fact that the agents are not going to agree to the fine print. They're not going to read the fine print. And I think that is the biggest thing that I want to change in this industry. And I don't look at this, this podcast or anything I'm doing in this business as, yes, I'm here to make money. I'm here to take care of my family. I'm here to take care of the people that are at Pay Compass. But I want this to be something that we can hopefully change the industry in general. Sure. There are a lot of people out there say, hey, we're here to change the industry, and yeah, maybe I'm one of them as well, but I hope that we're doing something real in how we're doing it by trying to lead from the forefront. And so changing these predatory contracts, I get it. The person signed it. You can always say, hey, you signed it. You shouldn't have signed it if you hadn't agreed to it. Yeah. But often, it's they don't read it, or if they do read it, they maybe don't understand it, or they're not thinking down the road of, what's going to happen when I leave 3 years from now. So sure. I could go on for hours. So you get me on that soapbox. I get really passionate about this. I get really angry about this because I've watched friends be taken advantage of. I help people all the time look at the agreements of other companies, whether they're coming to work for us or not, doesn't matter. I'll just help you kind of understand what you're signing.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty nasty ones out there. So that's a big thing for me. That is the by far the number one thing, is that, I don't want to sit here and say, hey, the sales agent's always the victim. By no means.
Sure.
There's bad actors out there, right? There are people that are looking to take advantage of people, but all too often, one thing's promised, one thing's alluded to, one thing's maybe even put in writing, and the contract says something different. And what are you going to do? I could tell lots of stories, but I'll tell you one that really sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll tell two. One is one that I recently saw where it was, you have to provide, you have to buy all your equipment from this company, and that's fine. That's not that out of norm. You have to provide quarterly financial documents. You had minimum requirements that were built into that, escalated over time, and most contracts in our industry, when they're terminated, you continue to be paid your residuals after you're terminated. This one, the residuals ended at the time it was terminated, and then when you looked at the reasons it could be terminated, the company could terminate it for any time, for any reason they felt like, with no cause whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this person was it's a ticking time bomb.
Right.
As soon as you build up a large portfolio and they decide, like, hey, that looks nice, turn you off, and contractually you've agreed to it. And so the other one is more of a company practice. There's a gentleman that I shouldn't call him a gentleman. He's not a gentleman, but it's a guy that runs a large ISO, and he's flat out admitted to a group of us that, hey, yeah, we have lifetime residuals. It's right in our contract. When someone leaves, we shut them off. And if 9 out of 10 people argue and complain about it, but never do anything legally about it, and we win. The 10% of people who lawyer up and come after us, we say, hey, you're right, and we turn them back on. But 90% of the time, I never have to pay residuals.
Yeah.
And for someone to sit there around a table of people sharing drinks and just like bragging about that, is just it's those are the sort of things that I really would love to help change in this industry.
Yeah. Well, it's taking advantage of leverage as a business practice, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And I'll brag on you for a minute, because one of the things I know you do for folks in the industry, even folks that have nothing to do with PayCompass, is you have offered your time and expertise to look at agent contracts.
Absolutely,
right?
all day long.
And that gives you an opportunity to see some of the things that are happening. It also gives you an opportunity to give some feedback to people that are maybe considering a change from one Salesforce to another.
Yeah.
Or
I'll say it to everybody out there. I mean, email me, jvalrath@paycompass.com. I'll gladly help anybody, whether they're want to talk about PayCompass or not. It doesn't matter. I just feel like it never hurts to have another second set of eyes on it, and why not? You know, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. One of the things I know we've talked about sometimes when we've talked about this topic is the difference between contracts and policies too, right?
Yeah.
And I know you've got some experience with that.
Yeah.
Share with me, again, a contract is a legally binding document. Yeah. Policy is kind of a business rule.
Right.
But stuff can get sticky when you're talking about the difference between those two.
Right. It's really important when you're looking at contracts that the things that have been promised to you, the things that are very important to you as an agent, the things, and I'd say even as an employee, really. I mean, but whether you're a W-2 salesperson or you're a 1099 salesperson, and there's different worlds there a little bit, but they both have the same end result, is you're signing a contract based upon what this company is saying they're going to do, what they're going to provide for you in exchange for what you're going to provide for them, right? And things get promised, hey, this is how we do it, this is our policy, this is, all these things get told to you. But if those things are not written into the contract, you need to be okay with knowing that those might change. A contractual agreement, I always say to people, is like, hey, whatever things I'm going to promise to you, they're going to be in our contract, because I joke around all the time. If I decide to sell the company tomorrow and hit the lottery, and I'm going to move to Bermuda and sell sunglasses on the beach, and my kids want to take over the business, I don't want them to be able to change things.
Sure.
I want you to be protected, because that contract is what protects you. Whether I sell to anybody, somebody takes over, or whatever, I get hit by a cement truck on the way out of here, the contract protects them from anybody future taking over the business. That should be very important to others as they look at these contracts. And policies are the exact opposite. Like, so it may be the policy right now to do certain things, but that can be changed at any time by anybody. So any leadership can say, well, yeah, that was our policy, but it no longer was. It used to be, certain restaurants' policies to give you unlimited soft drinks, and now it's not. You didn't sign a contract, but they changed their policy. And so. Yeah. You see that in business a lot, and there's a lot of examples that we can dive into about that really, if it's important to you, critical to you, make sure it's in the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things? I mean, I know when I think about things that I've seen agents get upset about or feel like that they've been kind of betrayed. Yeah. Arbitrary rate changes is one of those, right? A processor telling an agent, or in some cases, in many cases, not telling the agent what their rate is going to be from now on.
Right.
What are some other examples of things that you've experienced or heard about, or kind of seeking to try and create a different paradigm?
The biggest one for me by far, and it goes back to the policy discussion here, is the protection of the residuals for the sales agent and for the sales agent's family. And what I mean by that is that it's very common in our industry. I talked before about the evildoers out there. There's a lot of great people in our industry. I don't want to make it out to be like, hey, we're the only awesome ones. That's not the case. I mean, there's a lot of really great ICers out there that really care and are trying to do their best. And many contracts are written to where, upon termination of that contract, unless the contract is terminated for fraud, but if the contract is terminated for whatever reason, you decide you stop working, you go start boarding business somewhere else, whatever happens, that you continue to receive your residuals for as long as the company is making money off of your portfolio, right? So that's very common in our industry. That's not anything, and that you see that in most places. The part that has never been put in a contract that I'm aware of until Pay Compass, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, hopefully helping to spread industry-wide, is this concept of what happens then? What happens after you? What happens if, God forbid, you pass away tomorrow, things happen, People have worked their entire lives, many of them, to create this strong portfolio that pays their bills every month and their family relies upon every month. I look at that as an asset. That is your asset. No differently than your house, your car, your stock investment. If something happens to you, those things don't disappear. This is your asset. And so, putting that in writing, getting that to where it is an industry standard that in writing, it says in my contract that my family's going to be taken care of after I pass away. I've unfortunately been around situations where it was a policy of a company to do that, and then another company came in and took over that company, bought them out, and said, whoa, that's a policy, that's not in contract, canceled it, and all of a sudden you had families that were in dire straits financially because that got shut off. So it goes back to that policy versus contract discussion of like, that's the one I'm by far and away, I could talk for hours on that one. Like that one to me is just what's right. I cannot imagine, one of my agents passing away and then saying, oh, sorry, Sally, contract says it's done, so I hope you're able to feed your 4 kids. I can't imagine that, and unfortunately that happens all too often in our industry because people are hiding behind contracts.
Yeah, and part of that I think is this idea of that it is there's work that's been done, right? The booking of business, the selling a merchant. That work has been done. The residuals are the ongoing payments for that work.
Right.
And so if the work continues to profit, if the work continues to bring revenue in, why wouldn't we do that?
That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't understand if you look at the flip side of the company will say, well, what are they doing to continue to earn that business?
Sure.
Or that business has been earned, and I'll continue to pay it, but now that person is gone, we're going to have to support that. Well, boo-hoo, come on. I mean, like, how much you're still supporting it anyways. You were supporting it when the agent was around.
Right.
You're going to support it the same way when they're not around. Nothing has really changed. Yeah, maybe you had somebody who, helped go out and program the terminal that's not there any longer. But I think it's a small price to pay for just doing what's right.
Sure.
I laugh about it, but I just don't understand when I understand why people argue against it. But I just can't imagine actually doing that and making that decision, then look at myself in the mirror the next day, for sure. But it's a rare thing in our industry to see, but I hope to see it become something that's a much larger part of our industry.
What about W-2 versus 1099? Because obviously there's a lot of both in the space.
Right.
And for Pay Compass, you elected to go that everyone is their own independent agent and they have their own business, and kind of what was the thought process behind that, and maybe what have you seen that hasn't gone as smoothly the other direction? Right.
So there's a lot of success both ways. You can point to companies that have had tremendous amount of success as W-2 model, 1099, or a mixture of both at some companies. Right. You're seeing that a lot now. It was just crazy. 10 years ago, it was never. It was you're one or the other, and it was it was black and white. There was arguments against it. But now to see that happening at places where it's this mixture is really unique, and I think points to just the industry trying to be much more flexible with people. The industry has shifted a lot over the last, I'd say 10 to 15 years because of the accessibility, obviously, of information. I think the internet's here to stay.
Probably.
I think so. But the people getting that information and be able to access that in ways they couldn't before. The industry has now had to shift to where I feel like the salespeople are in control. The salespeople have much more power today in demanding what they want, and rightfully so. That they should be. They're the ones that are out there speaking to the customers. Kind of talking to our point just from before about what happens to servicing a customer after a sales agent maybe passes away is most customers know their sales agent as like, you're my guy. If I never received a statement in the mail, I might not even know what company you work for. Right. Or you get the logo on your shirt. I see it every once in a while. But otherwise they know you're the guy who walked in. You're the one who's around here all the time. You're the one I know is making money every month off us. So you're the one I'm calling. The sales agents should be the ones that are in control of that and receiving a large piece of the compensation. So, kind of answer your question, but is we chose 1099 because I wanted full flexibility for our sales agents. I didn't want anyone to feel like this was, hey, I have to do this every week. I have to send in reports. And that's what ends up happening. You have to justify it. If you're going to pay out a salary, you have to justify specific requirements for that salary. There has to be that give and take. And so if you go down that pathway, it changes the relationship. There's a saying we say all the time, which is, I want to earn your business one deal at a time. If you want to take your business elsewhere, take your business elsewhere. If you want us to be one of 10 places you work with, cool. Hey, if you only want to use us for Chinese buffets that are on the west side of the street, cool, whatever, man. I am honored just to earn whatever type of your business I can. And so I think when you roll with the 1099 side, you've got to be more on your game. You've got to have some stronger support. You've got to because there is that ability for people to walk. Sure. I also love the fact that we have all of these agents that are really building their own business. They are doing it themselves. They are living the American dream. And to see people, and this is not just at Pay Compass, this is anywhere, to see people go from struggling to suddenly being very well off financially and be able to do the things they want to do for their family and to to create, retirement funds and college funds and all those things. That's really empowering to see, and it's harder to do it at W-2 because there are expenses from that side. So I like seeing, I like the hey, I'm a small business, just like the small business I'm trying to go sell to as well. And then the other factor is that, as a 1099 salesperson, I have a lot more tax write-offs too. Sure. I mean, that's the part of it we don't talk about that often, but it used to be, as a W-2 salesperson, used to be a write-off a lot of business expenses, but that's gone away now. And arguably you barely can write off anything. So as a 1099 salesperson, you have a lot more flexibility. It's all legal stuff. I mean, the miles you're driving is to support your business. The meals you're taking clients out to is to support that relationship. The terminal you're buying to give away to the guy is a business expense. There's a lot of things you can do that when you're W-2 you might be doing anyways, just because you're trying to hold on to the business. But when you're on the 1099 side, you're getting at least some benefit out of that. So I think there's it's definitely, there's goods and bads to both sides, but I think the 1099 way makes us have to be better at our game and helps support our agents in a much better way. It creates a better outcome for them.
Yeah. I know I've heard you talk about that at times in your career, one of the frustrations you had is you would sometimes go into a merchant that you felt like you had built the rapport, that you could close the deal, but you knew in your heart of hearts that what was available to you to sell to them was not the right product for them, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's this kind of Sophie's choice of do I sell them a deal that I know isn't probably great for them and the next guy's going to beat, or do I, maybe even worse, just walk away and say, man, I wish I could. I just don't have the product or solution that would make sense for you. Right,
absolutely. So, and that plays into one of the primary reasons why we formed Pay Compass was, and this is no knock on any particular processor at all, but, especially as processors become larger and larger, sometimes the product offering becomes smaller and smaller because it's easier to train lots of people on a smaller array of products. And I totally get that. I totally understand. But I always felt like I was trying to, not always, but there was many times where I felt like, you would sit down and you'd listen to a customer and you hear their needs and you're like, yeah, I don't have that, but I've got this box right here and I need to try to sell you into this box because I'd like to make a commission and pay my mortgage next week, And so there's a fine line salespeople walk of that, of like you're trying to do you've got the guy on your shoulder saying, yeah, do the right thing, recommend him to somebody else who has that right solution, versus, hey, dude, we'd like to eat next week, right? Yeah. So I never wanted that to be our reality at Pay Compass, and it's something I'm hoping the industry continues to expand on in general. And I mean, when I talk about Pay Compass, I hope that lots of companies go the same pathway, because I can't handle all the agents in the world, so let's make a bunch of great companies that can, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so this concept of what we call the Pay Compass toolbox, which is, I just have this like vision in my mind of, I sit there and I listen to you, tell me what you need, and I say, cool, I've got that right here, let me open my toolbox and show you, and maybe I got 3 choices of it, that makes it harder for us as a company because we're supporting a lot more products. As opposed to just saying, hey, let's go down this one pathway. Sure. But it brings a lot more opportunity to our salespeople, brings a lot more opportunity to our customers. And at the end of the day, there's an analogy I use all the time. Like, last thing I want to do, and I've done it in the past, is be in the grocery store and be like, turn down the aisle, or like, oh, that I don't want to talk to that person because, that relationship didn't go well because the product fit wasn't a right fit and our company couldn't fix it and yada, yada, yada. And so I never want that to be someone's reality. Let's offer all these products and all these solutions. And at the end of the day, if we don't have them, there's a gap. Let's go find that product to fill that gap.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think you're right that it does. It creates this really, really large menu. Cheesecake Factory length menu, if you will,
yes.
which sometimes loses me between chapter 7 and chapter 8.
Right, yeah.
But it does, I think back to what you said a moment ago, it's more flexibility, right?
Yeah.
It allows you to walk into virtually any type of business, either literally or digitally, and say, I've got a solution for you. And it's not me shoving a square peg into a round hole. It's an actual solution that will work for you.
Right. I don't feel like any agent in our industry should ever have to say no to a customer. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's literal times when you should because they're, lying or misleading or, that sort of stuff. But in terms of, do I have that solution? No. I mean, you're at the end of the day, the heavy lifting is getting the appointment, right? The hardest part I always felt like, and I still feel today, is getting a merchant to say, hey, I'll give you 20 minutes, sit down and chat, let's talk. And to really get an engaged conversation with a merchant, that's the hardest part. Now you should be teamed up with a company that has your back, no matter what, has a whole array of products for you that you never have to say, well, we can't do that, or we can kind of get close to that. Hey, you want to text out invoices? No problem. You high risk? No problem. You want to, you want gift cards, payroll, whatever it is, like as a salesperson, like that's your, that really is what's going to drive you to helping more customers, and then obviously to more success and more profitability for your portfolio and your family, is the ability to help out more customers.
Yeah. What other things have you seen that maybe have been shaped by your own experiences or experiences of people that you've known or are close to?
Yeah. This one is a very controversial, I guess I would say. So get ready. Is the concept of solicitation, and there's a lot of arguments and go back and forth. And there's federal court cases where a person leaves a company. They've signed a contract, an employment contract that says, hey, you will not solicit your previous customer for a certain period of time. And I believe strongly that if you sign that agreement, you should follow the agreements. You should talk to an attorney, make sure you're doing it the right way. There's lots of different opinions about that, for sure. I just simply believe that shouldn't exist. And again, kind of when I talked about the part of a contract not having, me never seeing a contract out there that has the survivorship clause. I've never seen a contract out there outside of PayCompass that does not have a solicitation restriction. I hope that becomes more and more popular. I hope that we can somehow help drive that in the industry. But I get it. It's scary for companies. I mean, I remember early in the days of PayCompass, a couple agents making up 75% of our business, in the beginning, and thinking like, what happens if that person leaves? What happens? I mean, I get it. Yeah. And even as a larger company now, and companies that are much, much larger, you feel like, okay, those customers are here. Yeah. They're our customers. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as the agent is my customer. My job is to serve the agent, and it's a different approach to business, sure. Right? Sure. There are places where they are all about merchant acquisition. I look at it differently. I look at it as we are about agent acquisition. They are our customers, and then we are here to serve the agent and then their customers, which are the merchants, right? Yeah. And so if we do something wrong, we don't deliver on something, we don't adapt with industry trends, or just whatever reason, you look at a red bird that day and decide you want to change. I don't care, whatever your reason is. Like, that's not, I probably did very little at the grand scheme of things to earn that merchant's business. Let's be honest. You did the heavy lifting. Right. You have the relationship. Yes, we have the support, we have the structure. We're there to support you, but that relationship is yours, and I feel like you should be able to take that relationship where, I hope you leave with us. Yeah, please do, and we'll continue to pay you. We're contractually obligated to, and we're going to do that. We have people that are with us right now that are literally my competitors that have their own ISO that we're still paying residuals to every month, which is, of course we're going to. Why not? Because I'm making money off that account. Why wouldn't I pay you your fair share?
One last one I'll ask you about. What happens when someone makes a mistake, right? Because unfortunately, when we're dealing with humans and we're dealing with numbers, mathing is hard sometimes. We've seen I put the wrong number or the wrong bips or something gets missed or whatever.
Right.
And we certainly have seen. I think we've seen organizations say tough cookies, right? Or should have noticed it sooner, right? Or some of those kinds of responses. Yeah. But I know you've tried to kind of handle that a little bit differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it comes down to why don't we just do what's right for each other, as human beings? I mean, I wouldn't. I think of those companies in those situations if it was your supplier, are you going to be okay with that? Probably not. And you're going to be raging them all over the internet, telling all your friends, and taking your business away from that place. Why would you want to do that to somebody else that same way? And so, I think contractually most companies have a restriction in there that if an agent doesn't notice an issue in their residuals within 90 days, it's basically we don't have to do anything about it. We recently had a situation where we made a mistake. It was we were trying to do some changes in portfolios, just clean up some things. We were transitioning one software to another one and doing some changes, and something got messed up, and the agent never noticed it at all. We actually, through some data analytics that was caught, it was noticed, and then we started going back, and it was this is 6 months and tens of thousands of dollars in back residuals, and just did the right thing and paid the person, and then did a retroactive research of, okay, did this affect anyone else? And fortunately, it didn't. We were good, fortunately, because it was painful. I mean, it's a small business, you'd have to do that, but it's just what's right. It's not my money at the end of the day. I got paid that. But so that's one of the things I think should be looked at and changed in our industry, as well as this. Not, hey, you gotta, these reports can be. You've got to be a lawyer to understand these and dive into these, and you've got a CPA degree to really understand how it all works and all the intricacies of it. It shouldn't be that way. There's a lot of complexities to it, but let's make it as easy to understand as possible. And if we realize we made a mistake, let's just do what's right and take care of people.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Hey, thanks I appreciate you sharing. I know some of these are, you've been gracious to share. I know some of them are personal experiences of yours, right?
Sure.
I realized we poked around at some scar tissue today, which was not necessarily the intent, but I think it's, again, it's part of the industry, right? There are thousands of people selling in the payment space. Most of them have experienced one or more of these, right? And so I think it's, the first way we can fix them is to talk about them.
Absolutely.
Right? And so hopefully we did that a little bit today. Was it pointing at some elephants and saying, hey, there's an elephant standing there?
Well, let's smash the status quo. I mean, really, let's challenge the status quo. Let's put everything on the table and say, what really is this benefiting? Is this what you want to be known for? And I think as we help elevate those that are doing it the right way more and more, not just Pay Compass, but the many other companies out there that are doing great, as we continue to elevate and help each other get better and better and better and more aware, instead of, talking smack about all the bad ones out there, just create some natural separation in what those are. I think we'll be a much better industry, and we'll have a lot, happier agents, and a lot happier ISO owners at the end of the day, too.
Couldn't have said it any better. We'll finish there. I appreciate it, Justin.
All right, thanks, John.